Welcome back, everyone, to Morning Brew with the Homeowners. I'm your host, Dmitry Lipinski. The best show for the homeowners. I have amazing topic for you today. We are answering your questions about public adjusters, what they do, when to hire one, and when to stay away from them. I'm joined today with Adam Sand from Canada and Mike Never On Time Holmes. He actually told me that he tried to be on time and even changed his phone to be here at what
12:45.
12:45, and he
Dimitri
still
just aired me out.
and he still managed to be 25 seconds late. We'll see if he's gonna make it on time next time, but we forgive him for all of his takes. So thank you for being with us. And by the way, I love that Sam is not in the studio today. If you're new here, so Sam is our regular co-host, and Sam actually is public adjuster. So today we have four, or actually five Reddit stories will help five homeowners with their questions. And I love that we can talk about Sam and his industry behind his back. So first question comes from Reddit. We're going to go to this Reddit hole. I recently had a public adjuster roofing salesperson knock on my door claiming hail damage from a storm last month. My wife let them fly a drone and take pictures. Siding looked fine except for few dings. Roof had a few rough spots and metal fascia looked dinged. The public adjuster made it sound like a win-win. They'll handle everything and we'll only pay our deductible. The catch is we don't use them for repairs. If we don't use them for repairs, they get 10% of the claim. This sounds like a scam, right? Feels like they'd overcharge me since I'd basically be forced to use them. This is my first time, just trying not to get taken advantage of. What a story. Mike, what's your first take on it?
Man, public adjusters are a huge topic in our industry, and you're really either for, against, or I guess you can be on the fence too. Me, I am really selective when to use public adjusters. For people who don't know, a public adjuster is a person who can come in and actually has a license to talk about your policy. Most people, if you have an insurance claim, you will get a general contractor. That general contractor can talk about actual physical construction. For example, we're sitting in front of a table. So in order for us to fix the table, I would have to take everything off the table, detach the mics and everything, and do that. A public adjuster would say, well, according to your policy, you're obligated to do this. General contractors cannot get into that conversation. So that's just the defining line so people understand what a public adjuster is. That being said, they charge a flat fee. They typically get 10% of whatever fees they help you get, and their job is just to get the damage acknowledged, get you the money, take their percent, and push you back out into the world. For me, there's a time and a place. I usually don't use them. My biggest gripe tends to be the time that it takes. Once we involve a public adjuster, we are powerless. We can't be involved. We can't do anything. We can't say anything. And you can't get the public adjuster off of your file. So if you do have a bad experience, then it's just too bad, so sad. I had an experience with a public adjuster where they charged a 10%. And then they just went to an appraisal process, which I could have did on my own. So we just lost 10%. So I'm really touchy about the subject. I think there is a time and a place, and I don't want to bash them, but I'm really selective about it. My biggest thing is, if you're working with somebody, don't just work with the guy who's going to get the money and push you back out there. It's like buying an engine and then looking for a mechanic. Go find the mechanic, and he will know which public adjuster to use that he's probably has a relationship with, and their working relationship is what you want. You don't want peanut butter without the jelly. You want them together.
Before I hang it to Adam, I want to read official title or definition of public adjuster. Public adjuster is a licensed insurance professional who works on behalf of the policyholder, not insurance company, to help them prepare, file, and negotiate insurance claims after property damage, like a firestorm or a flood. Adam, do you have public adjusters in Canada? Is it a striving industry? Do you even have like any of them?
No, I mean, like I'm sure there are public adjusters, but we just don't. It's not as big of a thing here. Most of the like we only have six banks in Canada, right? You might have heard about that recently in all the news about how we don't have American banks here. So we don't. So then most of the insurance companies are linked to the bank by like either directly the bank or they're funded by the bank, and so then a lot of the insurance work goes to like big restoration contractors, there's not as much of the, small, like it's hard to like crack into storm damage unless it's like a serious storm. But it's not like you can go knock storms that are 2 years old and like, drum up business very easily in Canada. It just doesn't function the same way.
Love it. I want to share my thing. So I actually want to answer the question. This sounds like a scam. That's what a homeowner asked. Feels like they're overcharged me since I'd basically be forced to use them. First of all, if your wife signed the agreement, then yes, because think about what took place here. So someone knocked at your door and they want to provide. I actually love the professionalism here. So this public adjuster roofer, they flew the drone. So they document the damage. Every time you fly the drone, there's a footage, there's pictures, there's some kind of documentation. So this what took place here. So they let them do that. We also can identify that there's definitely was a damage. A roof had a few rough spots. A metal fascia looked dinged. So you did not know about this. So now you know. And most likely they signed agreements. So usually when there's damage, stuff like that, because if they're telling you, like, if you don't go with them, first of all, if you did not hire them, you can go with anyone you want, right? But here's the question. The catch is, if we don't use them for repairs, they get a 10% of the claim. Yes, and I think it's very reasonable. And I also will say this, 10%, it is reasonable because some public adjuster I've seen charge up to 25, even 35% of the claim. For me, it's a rip-off. So 10% is more than reasonable if the public adjuster actually prepares, files the claim on your behalf, represents you. In my experience, though, it's usually more beneficial to hire a public adjuster in case of dispute, just like hiring a lawyer. If nobody's suing you, you might have conflict situation, but few emails back and forth, you can settle the case, especially if, lawyers charge money too. But if you hire a lawyer, you can expect to pay, 10% hourly fee, whatever. So in this case, you did not know you have a claim. Now you know. If you didn't sign a contract, you can go with anybody you want. If you sign a contract, 10% is nothing. Adam?
Yeah, I agree with you on this. It's like the idea of locking someone in to use them, it feels like it's heavy-handed. And I get why and I don't think that a business should purely get the business just because they found the damage. I advocate heavily against the like, you have damage, sign this, and like that means I'm good enough to do your roof. So you got to make the right choice, but that's before you sign that agreement. So I mean, they should have a presentation in between that as to why you should choose to buy. That's an important thing for anybody selling to homeowners. And I speak particularly of contractors in this case, is that all of us in the roofing industry have to go beyond the expectation that like, I found the damage, therefore I should get the work. Like there should be a part in the middle where you explain what is the benefit to the homeowner for you doing it, because the customer shouldn't be wondering if it's a scam. Like they should be feeling like they were demonstrated and like some kind of value in excess of the price.
Right. My question is, or my thought is with public adjusters, I have a question as a contractor when I look at a file, and the file is, what challenge do we have and what are we overcoming that we actually need a public adjuster? Because as a general contractor, when we look at claims, they're not always needed, and that's just the truth. It's not always needed for somebody to come in and speak with them, take 10%, and then and for us slow the claim down. So I'm heavy on talk to a contractor, ask them, do they have a relationship with somebody, see who the public adjuster is. And the public adjuster I'm sure has a relationship with the contractor as well. They must. But make sure that there's a reason, like why are you bringing a public adjuster into this claim is the real big question. We use them as a tool to overcome large humps, policy coverages and things that we can't get into. And if that problem isn't there, then why are they there?
So you're against hiring public adjuster like in this scenario before a claim even filed?
Before understanding why there's a problem. The public adjuster is a special tool. We don't know that we need a special tool yet.
I agree. I'm going to sum it up for the first story today before we go to the next one. Hiring a public adjuster should be just like hiring a lawyer. There is a time and a place when you do that. There is a time where you're in trouble, you cannot sell it yourself, but if we would hire a lawyer for every conflict in our lifetime, I mean, lawyers would be even richer than they are, and we would have even more lawyers, right? The same thing. We should have way more roofers than public adjusters. Not every claim requires public adjusters. Insurance companies do make reasonable settlements. Not always, but unless you get in trouble, do not hire one. When we come back after the break, we're going to talk about, is there a benefit to using a PA versus to do it yourself, or let your roofing company to manage your claim. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Roofers and contractors fix the damage. We fix the insurance problem. Too often, insurance companies delay, deny, or underpay, leaving property owners stuck and your work on hold. That delay costs your client and costs you. At the Chad C. Wilson Law Firm, we cut through the stall tactics and fight for full payment, so projects move forward and checks get written. Together, we can anchor the scales and make insurance accountable for their promises.
Thank you for drinking your morning coffee with us today. Our next story about public adjusters is there a benefit to using PA versus do it yourself? Mike, what's the story?
All right, this one, the homeowner says, I'm in Illinois and have roof with hail damage. I'm working with a reputable roofer who says my roof looks old and my insurance might deny it for wear and tear. My sister, with the same insurance company, got a full replacement using a public adjuster. That public adjuster called me and said, if I don't use one, I'll probably get less money. And it felt like a sales pitch. I've heard stories like, I've worked directly with State Farm and I've had to file twice to get $5,000. Or the family used a storm chaser, same insurance, same agent, and got $17,000. I'd rather use my trusted roofer, but what can a public adjuster do that my roofer can't?
Wow. I'm going to start with a debate I did 2 years ago with Anthony, the public adjuster, famous Anthony on TikTok. He's full of...
I was just going to bring him up.
Yeah, he's full of bad advice. So in order for you to calculate how much you get versus how much your public adjuster gets, you have to look at the fee. So sometimes, you're correct. Sometimes you will get more money out of insurance claim, but let's say they get you 10% more, but... they charge you 25%. Did you really get more? So that's the question. Adam, what were going to say about famous Anthony?
Oh man, this part of it is like when the homeowner is just looking at this like a paycheck, it's the wrong way to look at it, because there's so like, when you're you're incapable of entering into a negotiation, so you're going to just get your butt kicked, like that scenario. Like if you're just looking at it that way, there's so much nuance. And the example that we brought up back then 2 years ago was that he was talking about how if you dropped your pan in your sink and you burned your sink, and then he would go and say, well, you have to do, like the contractor is going to say you have to do all this work to get the sink down and get it dropped, and then you got to, it's one of those sinks that's like buried in like underneath, like, you know what I mean? And you got all these pieces and parts you got to do. And then he goes and like maxes out the claim and then basically tells you to get like one of those like drop-in tin sinks.
He gets you the money, but he also gives you advice how to save it and how not to use the money. That's what it was.
Yeah, and then and so when you're talking about this, it's like you could get more money by saying, oh, when the water came in your house, it dripped on your couch, right? Oh, you need a new couch. But then now the insurance company paid for a couch. You didn't replace the couch, but now they use that to like get more money out of the claim. Like there's so many little dirty tricks that exist. And if you're just looking at it from this perspective, you're probably going to find yourself in a bad way.
I agree. And Anthony, if you're listening to us, if you're watching us on YouTube, you are the worst of the worst public adjuster I've seen in history. I would love to debate you again. So we did a massive debate. He got so much heat from it. So he had to block me everywhere. But that example of public adjusting, he was charging 35% fees. It was insanity. And the advice he was giving people on TikTok, I mean, we have a lot of like TikTok lawyers. I love police body cam videos when people get pulled over. And honestly, they're getting their legal advice from TikTok, and they're all being arrested. It's like, oh, you can't do it to me. You can't command me to get out of my vehicle. It's like, yes, I can. So the same thing here. Like, people, please stop listening advice on TikTok from these professionals. Anyway, Anthony, you are the worst of the worst when I've seen, in the public adjusting world. Even public adjusters will call him out. I mean, he is that guy. But he's still alive and well there somewhere on TikTok.
I don't know who signs up for 35% fees. That's nuts.
Well, so it's a gimmick, right? So what? It's a message. So he would say, like, your roofer is greedy. I can get you more money. So that's the sales pitch. I'll get you more money. I'll get you siding paid. I'll get you like all of these items, but you don't have to do them. So your roofer wants to do it for $30,000, but the trick is, if your roofer charges $30,000, he has to do every dollar of it. Like if a roofer charges you for siding, for gutters, he's gonna do the work. But Anthony's business model is, I'll get you from 18,000 to 40. You pay me 35%, and you keep 5,000 because you're gonna get 25.
His play is greed.
It's greed. It's stupid because at the end of the day, you're not gonna get work done that insurance is paying for. That's why it's insurance fraud, unfortunately. And I agree with Adam. The way we look at insurance claims should be, hey, something happened. I don't want to pay out of my pocket. I want to be made whole. If I lost the floor, I want a new floor. If I lost roof, I need new roof, new siding. This is the opportunity to improve your property, your biggest asset, your biggest investment that never ever goes down in value, over time. Now, if you pocket that money, if you don't improve the property, now you're going to be in the third world, living like in a third world country where everything is falling apart, everything needs maintenance. And because what? You didn't do it. If you don't replace your roof in 8 years, it literally will have holes in it. And I don't know where you're going to be in 8 years. It's hard to predict. Might as well do it today because those things never get cheaper.
Right. And one of the things that homeowners may not know is that when a public adjuster or commercial property, whoever the property owners are, knows that when public adjusters get those funds released, there's a intent of good faith that you are doing all of the work. So us as a contractor, when we do the work, so say if you came to us at Repair King, we help you out, we do the work. There's an initial portion that's released, and then you get the depreciation after the work is complete. We cannot file asking for the depreciation if the work has not been complete. That's fraud. So when public adjusters get involved, the insurance companies are assuming that you have this person and all the work's lined up. So they just give you all the money in good faith. And people definitely are abusing the system. And I get it. Times are hard. Money's tight. We understand that. But collectively, it is damaging the industry. And then so what happens is we see a lot of people that claim 100% of this work, and they only end up doing about 20% of it. Then when does that get found out? Years later, when you have a second claim and the insurance company shows up and they still got all the photos, all the damage from last time. And I just had it happen about 2 months ago in St. Paul. I get there, a lady has a tree fall through her garage roof. I inspect the whole property. She's got hail damage on her roofs, siding, everything. Adjuster gets there. We knew each other. He's like, Mike, I'm not looking at this claim. He's like, I paid this out 2 years ago. She didn't get the roof done. They kept all the money. I walk away. I don't want nothing to do with it. So it does happen out there a lot.
Adam?
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. And that's the whole idea around this whole thing is this is not a lottery, right? I mean, this is what causes the problems. And you're seeing that escalation of like the nuclear arms race between the insurance company and the contractor, and the homeowner is complicit in some of it because they kind of like be willfully blind to some of these issues. The common one being like a deductible and getting it paid. And the piece of advice that I would give you is like, as a homeowner, is, the U.S. government throws a heavy stick, right? The insurance companies have a pretty heavy stick. They keep a lot of data. They have a lot of enforcement ability. You as a homeowner, you don't have a whole lot. And the contractor, right? If the contractor is willing to trick the IRS, if they're willing, like by filing fake invoices or something to try and pay deductibles or get around things, if they're willing to kind of trick and play games with the U.S. government and with the insurance company, what do you think they're doing to you? Like, and if they think that they can get away from them, they're going to get them before you get them. There's going to be nothing left. So you want to work on principles that are aligned with like good values, because this isn't your windfall. This goes to a topic we discussed a few weeks back about like, this is not a victimless crime.
Right, and to tie it back into this question, the lady said, let's focus on what she said, which was my sister had a situation. She got a full replacement, and then she was told also that somebody else worked directly with State Farm, got $5,000. Somebody worked with a roofer and got $17,000. What's happening is that people are in one storm and they're gauging that their results should be like everyone else's. And I'll tell you flat out as a contractor, and you can't do that. You can be in one neighborhood. You don't know what product they had, when it was installed, what coverage they have, what adjuster they had. There's too many moving parts and too many variables. So I know a lot of times people go, well, he got one and he got one, I should get one. It doesn't work like that. Every house is objective, and we have to look at that one. What's your damage? I mean, you've been in areas maybe on vacation in Florida or Hawaii or something, and you've seen it rains across the street, but not here. The same thing with hail. Hail can hit over there, but not here. So don't always assume just because they're getting one that you're getting one, but you should get it checked.
I want to make a legal disclaimer before Steve Badger and the rest of the lawyers attack me too. And this has to do with the last part of this question. I'd rather use my roofer, but what can a public adjuster do that my roofer can't? To answer that question a lot, your roofer is very, very limited. If your roofer looks into insurance policy, the payout limits, all of that stuff, he's going to be violating UPPA laws, and that's prohibited. Your roofer cannot do a lot of things what public adjuster can do. So he cannot adjust talk policy, what's covered, what's not covered. There's a lot of things, right? So if you do feel, it's not fair, your roofer can only talk about scope of work. I think this is damaged. This is amount. He can talk about amount that he wants to charge for the work that is, damaged, but he cannot discuss if what's damaged covered or not. So if your insurance company denies the claim and say, we're not going to cover for interior damage, your roofer cannot help you. But your public adjuster can, because your public adjuster is like a lawyer. They speak the same language, they read policy well, and they can argue, it's like, no, their policy covers for it, so you own. Like, for example, if you have to leave the house and stay in a hotel, your public adjuster, just like a lawyer, can argue like, hey, it's reasonable, we're going to pay for that. Your roofer cannot do that. He can't say, like, go stay in a hotel, your insurance company will cover that. He doesn't know it. Adam?
Yeah, it's like that's the biggest thing is contractors wandering into discussing policy issues and stuff like that. And this went back to the whole one industry, one model period of time where we were talking about, using that cash settlement, cost incurred, right? Like this is where contractors can get themselves in trouble. And that's where a public adjuster does have a use, right? And they are a valid part of the industry. But to Mike's point, it starts at what did you actually have for damage? What is lost? Does it cost to get it fixed? The adjuster comes in to make sure that what needs to be fixed is fixed in accordance with the terms of the contract.
Love it. Great topics today. Great second segment. When we come back after the break, we will talk about a scenario when your roofer wants you to get a public adjuster. We have a great question from Reddit Hall. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Contractors love the catch-all because it makes every single one of their roof builds easier and more profitable. Protective netting wraps facade and landscaping to prevent from left-behind nails and damage. Homeowner referrals bring you more jobs, and insurance supplements bring you more profits. But my favorite part, the branding.
And we are back with the third segment. Thank you for hanging out with us today, drinking coffee, tea, whatever it is you're drinking in the mornings. Adam has the third story of today.
Yeah, so this is about my roofer wants me to get a public adjuster. I had wind damage and hail damage a few months ago. My roofer said to file a claim. Insurance paid $25,000 but refused to pay for water damage to my kitchen ceiling, saying it was wind-driven rain. I'm sure it was from the torn flashing. I was on the roof stopping the leak. Now the roofer says to hire a PA because insurance is fighting adding flashing, porch roof, and boots to the payout. They also won't add language saying that they'll pay fair market value for required decking. He says a PA might also get gutters covered. The PA charges $1,500 flat. Worth it or no?
Quick question, worth it. First of all, it's rare when PA charges $1,500 flat. Usually it's percentage based, but I see why, because claim is already approved and all the exterior is already paid. So now we're only fighting for interior damage. And exactly to the previous segment point, your roofer is very limited. He cannot discuss the policy. He cannot discuss the damage. Like, if you have a flood, if you have, major problem with the floors, your insurance, your roofer does not know the policy. Does your insurance cover water damage inside? Like, this is a 100% question for the PA. And I think it's one of those rare cases when it's not an optional. You just must have PA, because if your insurance company is acting this way and you have a damage, I mean, you have to ask yourself, do I pay out of my pocket, or do I hire a lawyer slash PA to fight my insurance company because, I don't have the money, I don't want to fight it? Mike, how often do you see scenarios like this?
With this, the thing that gets me is such a small thing. It's flashing in certain areas. I do see a fair amount of time where, I see all the time where the insurance company's not paying what they're supposed to pay. And to what you said earlier, general contractors are constrained by certain language because of the UPPA. So what we do is, we used to say, oh, we'll negotiate with the insurance companies. You can't say that anymore. So more so what we say now is, hey, we'll find the damage, identify it, provide a estimate, and then we'll defend our estimate. So we can talk about why we have to do what we do, but we have to get real touchy when what we're saying to the insurance companies. So there are times, and times are happening more, where we have to use alternate strategies to get to where we would normally get earlier, whether that's appraisal, lawyer, or public adjuster. So we do see this happening more. But listen, when your roofer tells you that he's calling in backup, it's not just for drama. It's strategy. He's doing it for a reason. So trust your roofer is my answer.
Love it. Adam, what do you think?
I mean, in some cases, this is all small stuff, and a lot of roofers would probably just like take the money and get the roof done. But when you start talking about the ceiling and stuff like that, now she's got greater concerns, and she might be trying to jackpot the insurance claim too, right? Like try and get as much as possible out of it. Like, we don't know what's going on. On the surface of it, her question is $1,500. Is it worth it? Absolutely, for the price. Like, that's a fairly low price to charge for it, and I think she's got a good case. But I mean, this is a common scenario I think we see every day with roofers. It's that arms race, right? You've got the contractor who's painted to look bad by the insurance. You've got the insurance that's painted to look bad by the roofer. Both of them are have their own things to say about the homeowner at times, and they have to deal with ultimately the homeowner being the decision maker in a lot of this stuff in terms of who to pick and who to hire. So I think that this is all the reason why there has to be some improvement to this process, because it just keeps escalating the arms that we raise against each other. Costs are going up, and then homeowners are paying higher premiums, higher deductibles. Insurance companies are leaving. Laws are getting more restrictive on all parties, and it's just becoming this like litigious process that shouldn't be so like this.
Man, the more I look at it, the more I read this, it looks like an inexperienced roofer. I mean, because look at what they're asking for. They're asking for flashing boots. These are
redecking.
Yeah, redecking. These are homeowners.
Reasonable.
Exactly. And as a homeowner, you don't know. These are really basic things. These are city codes. These are city codes. These are manufacturing codes. And as a GC, that's what we have to reference all of what we're doing and why we're doing it. It has to be based on city codes, state codes, or because the manufacturer says something. Decking, flashing, those things are so simple. I wouldn't even need. I think the roofer's probably unqualified. They should call us.
Well, another thing here, insurance company already approved $25,000, and something is telling me it's a bigger roof. When you have any damage to your ceiling, it tells me that insulation is probably wet. So you might have mold, you might have other issues. How many times we have seen, major health issues, major health concerns after, if your roof, like everything inside the house should be dry at all times, right? Your roof leaks, now you have it's not just a spot. First of all, it can be there for a couple of weeks. Now you have a mold concerns. It's drywall. I mean, it could be a bigger problem. And for you and me, it might sound like, oh, wet spot. But, how much does it cost? How many labor hours does it cost to paint? Or maybe you need to cut it out or dry it out. I mean, it's more complicated than that. And your insurance companies owes you for pre-loss condition. I mean, we see it a lot after hurricanes. When companies will come in and they'll cut off like 1 foot of, first level drywall. I mean, that's to me, if you ever done any remodeling project, you know that wherever you think it's going to take, it'll be like triple that amount, right? Now, the question is who's paying for it. So the moment you start messing with the ceiling and start drying something, who knows what else is there? And I know, like, every time tree falls in your house, there's a framing issue, mold issue, any kind of, subfloor. I mean, he's asking for items for a reason, but he needs to get paid for those. So if insurance not paying, you need extra help, and PA actually might help as well.
Right, and I have an example of one I'm dealing with right now in St. Paul. We have a lady who called for a leak. We got the roof paid. Their insurance company paid, no problem, but we went inside and the house is over 100 years old. So any house that's pre-1978, we have a process where we have to make sure there's no lead in that house. So the other side of this is, we're just reading this and speculating. So the other side of this is, what if that contractor's saying that interior room might have lead, and that might drive the price up to the homeowner? So he could also be protecting the homeowner, just to kind of play devil's advocate and kind of play both sides. I have another house that I'm dealing with right now where we had to replace the roof and the decking, and because of that, we have to replace the flashing that goes to the roof to the wall, and we had to touch the siding, and the siding wasn't up to code. So therefore, the city told us that we had to put house wrap behind the siding, which means we have to take off the siding, and the siding is asbestos. So it was another expensive bill. So the other side of it is that there could be more to it. So if you're ever in this scenario, just really ask for clarity. Why are we bringing in somebody else? What's the difference? What are we gaining, and what is this going to equal in the end? So there's nothing wrong with you being in the boardroom trying to understand what the plan is. Just make sure they have a solid plan, and make sure that your roofer and your PA have a great relationship and are working together.
Adam, what do you think?
I agree with that. And when I looked at the Reddit post, I actually asked it to just break down all the responses and kind of categorize them for me, because there's a lot of responses on Reddit. And there was a surprisingly large number of people who said that you should hire the PA independently, and not use somebody that was partnered with the roofer. And I thought that was an interesting point, because usually you want recommendations, you want stuff like that. So what is the case for a homeowner shopping for a PA independently when they need it, as opposed to using the one the roofer recommends? Like, what would be the case for that?
I don't know if
It's overwhelming high number of people that has recommended that.
I think they don't know. I'm gonna assume negative. I'm gonna assume from personal experience that what happens in that case scenario is you have a homeowner who has a math problem. For example, I've been in Florida. There's a lot of people who don't have the right coverage. They're not getting everything taken care of. They want to get this lump sum of money, take the 10%, throw it to the PA, and sit there with a lump sum of money, and then go to the roofer and negotiate and try to drive the price down. Maybe they have a math problem, and what they're doing is they're just trying to get money on the table so that they are in control.
Well, shopping for a public adjuster, just like shopping for lawyer, you don't really, we don't look at the prices. We look at the reputation in the industry and the cases and things like that. So if you if this PA charges $1,500, right? Let's say you have DUI and lawyers, asking you $2,000 to shop with you, and he specializes in DUIs. Are you really gonna go shop, between 5 different lawyers for that? Like, you have extreme situation, it's a couple $1,000, just be done with it. You just need the representation. I think if you wouldn't have a roofer, if you start from scratch, yes. But in this case, it's a $1,500 fee. They're already familiar with the case. It's a referral. I think something in scenarios like this, it's the best. Like, if someone refers you a lawyer, someone refers you because they know your case, they know the industry within, they know, like, that roofer probably knows PAs in his market, and he's making a recommendation based on his experience. You're gonna go to, I don't know, ChatGPT or Google, you start from scratch, bring someone new. It just adds complexity, in my opinion. In a case like this, if I didn't have a roofer, if I didn't have PA, I might shop around.
And I will also say that PAs are not the golden ticket either. Let's get that clear. Just because a PA comes in, that does not mean that you're getting guaranteed results. That does not happen. We had a scenario where we had somebody gave us 18 properties. We used one of the biggest name PAs in the Twin Cities here. We gave them 15 properties. We kept 3 for ourselves. All 15 properties, they got no results. It was a waste. And we got the 3 that we fortunately got results. So PAs can fail just like a roofer can. So don't think that a public adjuster is a golden ticket to guaranteed money. That's why, again, I'm going to repeat it in your heads, make sure that they are working together with a roofer, because you want that team.
I wish Sam Cooke would be here, but I'm so happy he's not. He would be in a tough spot to comment on most of it.
Oh, he's twisted in his seat right now. He's like, God.
But at the same time, I would say like Sam is actually one of the, because I've seen how he operates, and if you're here in Minneapolis area, I highly recommend Sam Cooke. He's actually driving somewhere, so I don't want you to think that we did not invite him because of the topic, but it worked out well. If you are looking for public adjuster, I do recommend Sam Cooke, and reach out. I'll give you a recommendation. The reason I recommend him, because I know he denies himself a lot of claims, and you want an honest lawyer who will say, hey, you don't have a case, drop it. And you want an honest public adjuster who says, hey, insurance paid you enough. It rarely happens, but it happens. And I think Sam is one of those guys. Guys, we're going to take one last break. When we come back, we're going to talk about public adjuster who've been hounding homeowner. Do not go anywhere. 2 more spicy stories to finish the episode strong. We'll be back.
Was your insurance claim denied, or did you receive considerably less than you feel is owed? I'm Chad Wilson, and I will fight the insurance companies to get you what your claim deserves. Call the Chad T. Wilson Law Firm or visit claimdenied.com for a free case evaluation. Let us fight for you. It's what we do.
And we are back. Thank you so much for hanging out with us this morning. We have last 2 stories to finish the episode strong. This one is very interesting. My neighbor, so it also comes from a Reddit source. My neighbor had his roof repaired by a PA. And while they were working, the PA came to my door offering his services. He said, I'll act as your attorney and handle everything. When I asked questions, he said his quote would be higher than others. What a sales pitch. But that I wouldn't have to pay anything. Now he keeps following up nonstop. So we have a door knocker public adjuster. On paper, it sounds like a win-win. I get a new roof at no cost. He gets a check. The only loser seems like an insurance company. But I'm suspicious. What's his real incentive? And should I be concerned? Adam, what do you think is his real incentive is?
Well, his real incentive is, of course, he's going to take a fee in exchange for the value of the claim that he's going to get done. He's going to hire a roofer to do it. I actually think that if policy shouldn't be discussed by roofers, damage assessments shouldn't be done by public adjusters. This to me seems like ambulance chasing.
Yep. And I don't know how I feel about it, because there's the rules about it, and I recently did an interview with a restoration contractor who actually, like, officially, like, you can call him ambulance chasing, because every time I didn't know nothing about that industry, but every time there is a house on fire, they literally will follow the house truck. And the moment, some fire departments hate it, because you'll have like 3-4 storm restoration contractors to sign agreement to restore it to previous condition, because there's a smoke, right? And I'm like, that's like ambulance chasing. But at the same time, if you're the homeowner, you just got a house on fire, I mean, you need those contacts. That's the next thing you're going to be doing. You will be looking for someone to rebuild and restore. I mean, I hate it, but at the same time, it's a capitalism. It's an opportunity, creates, opportunity for everyone on every scenario, on every business transaction, and including ambulance chasing. If there's a need, if there's a demand, there's going to be offer. So, Mike, where are you at on ambulance chasing?
On the ambulance chasing, I have to say, number one, if you're a fisherman and you know that there's a school of fish, you're going to the school of fish. You're not going to be like, hey, you just got here because the fish are here. Dang right, of course. I think with hail, it's understandable. It's a knee-jerk reaction. People know that there's a problem. You have to make a decision. You're probably outside looking at your house. So here they come. The problem is that there's just too many of them, so it gets overwhelmed. It's like if you were some attractive female at a bar and you're the only girl in there, and these guys are hounding you. You're just going to get tired of it. You probably wanted some attention, but it's just too much attention. To the topic of fires, I think that's a lot more touchy, because that's a lot more. I mean, just the word fire.
It's sensitive, yeah.
It creates emotion. It's such a more emotionally sensitive scenario. So that's different. I wouldn't be grabbing my paper and a pen running after a fire. You know, I think there's a lot of different other ways to handle those scenarios. But I don't have any problem with people showing up after an incident. You know, we used to say, we heard the storm chasing thing, and storm chasers came from the meteorologist, and then it came as a derogatory term for ambulance chasing people looking for work. We even changed the wording to say we're storm response so that people understand that we are storm response, or as Anthony Del Medico said, you know, first responders, which was an interesting twist on it, to say that, you know, you do show up after hurricanes and those sorts of things. But back to this guy, man, with that many red flags, I don't know, you might as well just go ahead and make a scarf out of it, because this guy sitting up here telling you that he's going to act as your attorney. Nuts. That's crazy. You can't show up as a public adjuster and say, I'm going to be your attorney. I mean, pick a license, homie. You can't show up as a public.
I mean, he's just using language. He's just educating people. He's just helping me understand.
He's making an analogy, but I still can't help but laugh.
Right. Yeah,
I think it's a weak proposition.
Oh, it's horrible.
And how common is it? How many public adjusters do you know who do this kind of? Usually, public adjuster, for those who are listening, who are new to the industry, usually public adjusters trying to do B2B stuff. They try to befriend roofers who already have jobs and need their services. I rarely see. Maybe in some other markets, but I rarely see public adjusters go door to door soliciting their services, especially with this kind of sales page. Right. You know, I get a roof at no cost. This is a value proposition of a roofer, not a PA. He gets a check. The only loser seems like insurance company. I don't know. Insurance companies never lose. I promise you that. They never lose.
Right. And then telling the homeowner, hey, my quote's going to be higher than others. You don't even know what the others are. So how do you know you're going to be higher than them? You're just throwing out there, hey, listen.
It's just brand positioning. It's just like he's just conditioning you for the price that he's going to be the most expensive. We do that too.
Right.
So.
He's selling money. He's saying, oh, you won't have to pay anything. He's selling money. He's saying, listen, I'm going to get you more money. You won't have to pay money. I'm going to act as your attorney. And then if he's following up nonstop, listen, it's all about the money. I mean, just get your transparency right. But you did bring up a good point that most public adjusters that we see, they go sell accounts. Most public adjusters go after a roofing company. I don't know 100% how I feel about them out door knocking. I did bump into somebody in Florida, and it's a little odd because, and Adam brought up a very interesting point that I've never even heard before, but I wouldn't have a problem with, which is if GCs, contractors can't talk about policies, why should a public adjuster, and I get why they do, but that's an interesting thought to think that they shouldn't be allowed to talk about damage. Well, because you're not the contractor. So how do you know what the work is if you're not going to be the liable person? So that's an interesting thought, man.
Well, it kind of leads to the next one. I mean, Reddit is just permanently memorializing like all of our stupidity on the internet under a pseudonym name, because now we just have ChatGPT, which would avoid everybody having to post this here for us to have to read and rip apart. Because all of this, you know, these two stories really kind of sources back to like just general homeowner ignorance to the process, and that's okay. Like as a homeowner, you don't have to know all about this stuff, because the next story. It says, I recently filed a claim with my insurance who gave me an estimate for repairs. I wanted to check with a public adjuster to see if my insurance gave me a good estimate. So it's like, why? You know, why did you go that direction? The public adjuster checked, and like I should just read the story first, but the public adjuster checked out the place, but won't give me an estimate or say how much it might be compared to my insurance estimate. He said he can disclose that once I sign a contract with them. Is this a normal practice, or is he trying to force me into a bad contract? Like, this is like what you were talking about earlier, Mike. Like, this is just going the wrong way.
I want to give advice to my contractors and my public adjusters, especially public adjusters. And I don't want to be like too rude, but more time than not, you guys are full of yourself. You think you're the best thing ever, and everybody needs you. The reality is, this is how people look at you. You know, if you want to adjust your business, if you want to understand what consumers want, spend time in comments. This is what people think about you. With your proposals, with your value proposition, you think you're the smartest business person alive, but people go to Reddit like, hey, this does not sound good. This concerns me. What do I do? You raise more red flags than actually common sense for people just to hire you. I mean, in this case, like, what kind of value proposition do you have? Sign a contract with me? before I tell you what you're gonna get out of it. Like, it's horrible. You can at least say we'll get you like 25% more, and we charge 10% more. Nothing guaranteed, but at least I get an idea. But now you're just saying like, can't say anything. Like, I mean, insurance paying you $30,000, but I charge 10% fee, and I'm not gonna tell you how much I'm gonna get you until you sign to work with me.
Right. If their eyes are bigger than the hail damage, you need to back up a little bit right there. Because what this is,
what if it's a pea size?
Man, right? It's squinting. That means that you're trying to find the damage. Listen, it's a bad relationship. You got in this last scenario. Everybody's starting off not trusting each other. They're bringing their hurt from other things into this relationship, and they're playing this game of show me mine and I'll show you yours, and nobody wants to show anybody anything. I understand what's happening is he doesn't trust you either, that you're going to understand why his estimate is big, or he think he's going to do work for you and you're going to run with somewhere else. And then clearly you wouldn't trust him because you're like, well, you're not even showing me anything. So it's just a bad relationship. So you just spin the wheel and call somebody else.
Adam,
yeah.
What's your take?
My thing is like, when kind of piling onto what you said, Dimitri, like we have a problem of a lack of the ability to convey value in excess of price here. And so that they're trying to use information asymmetry as leverage in the relationship. And you can't use information asymmetry as leverage anymore, because in today's world, you had Google, you had Reddit, you got chat, you got AI, you can't, that can't be your business strategy, is use information asymmetry as leverage to get business. It doesn't work. That stuff's reserved now for basically like lawyers, maybe like doctors, you know what I mean? Like where stakes are truly high and education is absolutely needed, but public adjusters and roofers are not doctors, they're not lawyers, right? That's the one thing like ChatGPT is trying to take away from service, right? Is legal advice and medical advice, because it is so nuanced and such high stakes. Everything else, it's like give, ask, the whole Gary Vee thing.
Right. And to this, so people know that things have changed recently where general contractors, and I'm assuming public adjusters, have to provide some sort of number now anyways. So we have to provide some sort of an estimate or ballpark thing. So I think what this person was really holding back was the fear that you might not understand the estimate. And because of not understanding it, he tried to be in control of that and hide it. When I think a good person that you're hiring will educate instead of just try to control and manipulate. So he probably should have done a better job of educating the person of that. And listen, if you don't trust each other on day one, don't expect a happy ending.
Love it. Awesome episode today. I'm going to summarize it with this. Everybody, and I mean everyone, lawyers, public adjusters, contractors, we all need to start giving more information for free, educate our homeowners. I see a lot of confused and skeptical homeowners because they don't know who to trust. So if you're a public adjuster, share as much information for free. Build your brand so people can trust you before they even call you. Then maybe you don't have to sign, because if I call you, if I trust you from your social media accounts, from your YouTube, from your interviews, I'm like, this guy is honest, he's going to help you. And if you run like, hey, everything is top secret and I cannot share anything with you, you're going to just raise red flags. Awesome episode. Thank you so much for being with us here today. We'll drink more coffee next Saturday. We'll be back. Thank you for being with us today.